I've got a course coming up shortly. I've got a webinar coming up shortly on stories. So I thought I'd have a look at stories and have a play with it. But I'd also like to have a little bit of fun with demolition drawings, existing, demolished, and so on. One of the things I think is really useful with Vectorworks is the ability to have here we can attach data to objects. We've got here the IFC information, but we could also attach our own information to it if we wanted. So we could, if we wanted to, create our own information. Let's have a look here. That's the existing wall. That's the name, the description. We could put a tag on here. We could put a tag, say, existing. And we could also put a tag on another wall like this one, and we could make this wall proposed. Now we could use, I was thinking we could use our data visualization. That's what I was looking for. We could use our data visualization. Now I can't see it at the moment, so I'm going to see if I can play with the settings. Have a look here. There's our group settings, and I think, let's have a look. My bar settings, visualization. It's there. So it's ticked, which means it must be up here somewhere. One of these must have my visualization in it. Let's turn off snapping. We'll put that somewhere else. And I still can't see my visualization. What's this one here? That's just gone. Let's get rid of text. Maybe we get text, we could see it. Oh, that's visualization. That's not what I want. I want data visualization. Now let's just check my settings. What's this? This is floor plan. That should be correct. And we should have the ability to use data visualization up here. Quick preference settings. Dark background, data bar settings. No, it's not what I want. Then what I'll do is I'll go back to my sheet layer. Let's have a look at my sheet layer foundation plan. And let's get rid of my multiple view panes. Framing plan. So this should be a file. This should be a viewport. I should find here that I've got data visualization. This one here. And what have we got? We got some user folder ones, some library ones, current document. There's nothing there. So I need to create a new data visualization. This is going to be my walls. I'm going to change attributes, define the criteria, all attributes. So we can look for specific objects, so not all objects. I want to look for specific things. Where's type? Type is, I want to find a wall. And I want to add, so I need to make sure that my record, my IFC entity, maybe I can use that. No, that's not what I want. Where's record format? Field value. And we got access to our wall values. Here's IFC. I can't get to my IFC information. Okay, cancel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my design layer. I'm going to actually create the record format that I want. Let's have a look. Oh, I'm not streaming anything, am I? Okay, so why aren't I streaming anything? Display capture. Right, wrong one. That one. Oh, there we are. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm just learning how to do all of this stuff, so don't be surprised if it's a complete shambles. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own record format. I just think it would be really handy to have our own record format for this, so that I can actually assign the information that I want. So I'm going to create a new resource. This is going to be a record format. Okay, let's create this. This is going to be my wall style. I just want to try something. I want to see whether I can create a foundation. No. I want to see if I can create a plan showing existing, demolished, proposed, and whether I can use the walls to do this. So I'll have a look at that. So if you're there, if anyone's there, don't forget to send me a message. Tell me what you want me to cover. So this time I'm going to have a field. So this is going to be existing. This is going to be my phase. I'll call it phase. So what phase have we got? Let's have a list. Pop-up list. We're going to define the list. So we've got existing, proposed, demolished, existing, relocated. That should be enough. Okay, so we've got those, and that's the first field. Now the next field I'd like is insulation. I want to know whether my walls are insulated or not. Again, I'm going to use a pop-up list. Now the reason I use a pop-up list so often is because it's impossible for somebody to choose the wrong name if it's a pop-up. If you get people to type the name in, then there's always the danger they'll type in something slightly different, a capital, not a capital, leave a space, make a spelling mistake. A pop-up list, there's no chance. So we've got no insulation. We've got sound insulation. And we've got thermal insulation. Thermal insulation. Okay, so we've got those. Let's go. Okay, there. Anything else? We can always add to this later on. So this wall here, I'm going to select that wall. Just use my selection tool. So select that wall, and this exterior wall. Let's just use a whole bunch of them. We got this wall. This wall looks like it's in two parts, so that wall's another bit. So we got those. We're going to look at our data, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a record, and the record I want to attach is my wall style format. Cool. So this phase is existing, and we want these to be some of these walls want to be thermally insulated and some want to have sound insulation. So I'm going to deselect that wall and that wall. So these walls here, they currently have no insulation, so we're going to give them thermal insulation. This wall and that wall. This is a tiny little building. It really needs to have some sound insulation. There we are, we got that. So this is a proposed wall. Let's attach the data to that. So we'll attach the record. We'll attach that same record format. This is proposed. This has got sound insulation. Okay, so we got some walls. Now let's have a play with it. Now we've got the ability to change our view to bring in our bring in, I'm just looking for it now, our, where's it gone? No. I'm looking for data visualization. So we've got snap to working plane, suspend, settings. I'm going to put my settings. I actually quite like my snapping down the bottom here. This is where it used to be. I thought it was quite handy down there. Visualization. I don't see what I'm looking for, which is the data visualization. This is visualization in terms of notes. This is layer, class. Oh, there it is there. Silly me. I was looking for another sort of button. So I'm going to create a new data visualization. So this is going to be existing. Wall phasing. Let's call it wall phasing. Wall phasing. So let's define the criteria. So we want to have not all objects. We want to have a type. And if you're watching, don't forget to give me send a message. I think I've got the chat turned on, so I can view the chat if I like. There's the chat there. I managed to just muck it up a wee bit. The chat's on the side there, so I can see the chat. If you've got a question, don't forget to drop a comment in there, and we'll have a look at your question. So my type is a wall. Let's have a look at wall, cool, and let's add, and we're going to add a record format, and I want the record format to be, where's my record format? Record formats, wall style or record format is present. So it's found 16 walls. It says so just here. Let's just make sure that we're not looking inside images and inside groups or plugin objects. So that should find all of those objects. Now the next thing I'd like to do is to make sure that I'm going to change the style of these walls. So what I would like to do is I'm going to apply, so define the criteria, all objects. I think I can do all objects anyway using a value. So here we've got a value. I want to use the phasing. So if it's an existing wall, I want it to have not the original fill, but I want it to have a solid fill, white, with a thin line. Okay. If it's proposed, I want to apply that as well. I want this to have, I'm going to double click. I want this to have a pattern. I want it to be that pattern. I want it to have a heavy line. And okay. Now I don't know if you've noticed, but this changed over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this. This should be a wall style. That's unstyled walls. What's this one here? This one's also unstyled. Let me select all my walls, but they should be on a class called wall proposed. So let's select all those walls, and let's look at my active settings. Class, let's go click. Is it not finding any of those? Let's go and create some settings. So I want it to find object. Let's have a look. We've got other attributes. We want to find the class. Okay, so if I click on that, it should. Let's turn off the wall phasing. That's giving me trouble. So let's go off. So now let's try it. And I've got the wrong tool. All right, so let's have here object, and class. Okay, so now when I click on that, it's picked everything of the same object type. I want object and class, so it's picked all of those, and I'm going to change those if I can. At the moment, they've all got the same thing. All right, So now I'm going to go back to my eyedropper tool. Sorry, I got those two mixed up. So let's look at the eyedropper. So in the eyedropper mode, I want to pick up a record. I'm going to pick up the record from this wall, and I'm going to apply it to that wall and that wall. I just want the record, really. Let's go back to this. Go back to my settings. I want it to pick up only the record. So when I do that record, it should give me, that object should have the same record attached. Let's have a look. Wall style record. Oh good, it's got sound insulation. I want this now to be thermal insulation. I'm going to do this manually. We can apply those. But the eyedropper tool should do that. Now, if I go back up to here and I apply the wall phasing, you can see that that wall and this wall have picked up that wall phasing. So you could actually have all of your walls just looking white, and then you could use this phasing strategy to change the graphic style of the walls using data visualization. I don't think we use data visualization nearly as much as we should do. It's so powerful for doing all that kind of stuff. Let's do another one, which I really like. Let's manage our data visualizations. That's my wall phasing. We can create a new one, and this is going to be called wall insulation. Wall insulation. Okay, so we're going to have not all objects, but we're going to have, because I want to be quite particular, we want to have walls. We want to make sure they have the record, and we want to have the wall style report record is present. You notice we got more walls this time because I've added some more walls. And okay, so now we're going to do it by record. Yep, I'm going to do that. This time we're going to use the phase, we're going to use insulation. And if they've got sound insulation, they're going to have a particular fill. We're going to have a pattern, which is going to be this pattern with sound. This is going to be sound insulation, so I'm going to make it green. And let's make it a heavy line. And if it's thermal insulation, it's going to be a pattern. It's going to be that pattern. It's going to be red. Again, it's going to have a heavy line around it. And apply attributes. So sometimes I forget to do the apply attributes. You can see there I forgot to tick that one. Okay, and let's go OK. Now we can go up here and we can choose not wall phasing but wall insulation. And you can see I've got a red wall and a green wall. Now if they're not strong enough, I can change those. And let's go back to manage my data visualizations. So wall insulation, I'm going to edit this and change my sound insulation to a much darker one, or even just solid. And the thermal insulation, let's change that back to solid as well. And then okay, let's get rid of all of that. So that makes it really easy to see. So you can set up one viewport where we're looking at the insulation. We can then set up another viewport where we're looking at just the whether it's demolished, existing, or proposed. And you can see that change there. I just think it's a really cool trick. I don't know if I've got anyone here that has a question about that, but if you've got a question, let me know. Put a comment. I've got the live chat going, so it should be able to, you should be able to send me a chat message. So mostly today I'm just trying to practice getting my my live streaming going. I've tried it lots of times, complete failure almost every time. It's the first time. I'm so happy. It's the first time I've actually made it successful. So if you've watched it and you're enjoying it, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment so I know what your question is. The other thing I thought of looking at would be, let's create a brand new file, a blank file. We're going to start with a blank file. Let's look at stories. So when we go to Tools, Organization, we've got the ability to create stories, and I'm going to be looking at stories in my subscription search next month. So stories are really quite useful because we can create stories, but I actually found something out the other day from the Vectorworks Open. They had an open day, and if you didn't go to it, you really should have done, because it was really useful. If you want, I'll put a link. Once I go back to YouTube, I'll see if I can put a link to the movies that they made. So one of the big things with this is the default story levels. To me, these need a lot of work to make them really useful, because top of slab, finished floor, to me they just don't give me enough information to let me know what they're about. Now in my photocopier I've actually got some. So things that would make more sense to me would be things like the ceiling, the top of the wall, the light switches. A countertop would be a good one. Imagine if you set your countertops on a layer, you could actually change the layer real easily. We got skirting, baseboard. The toe of your cabinets might be really useful to have as a level. Bottom of cladding, top of footing, bottom of footing. These things to me would be really, really useful. Now, if you do things like put the light switches on their own story or on their own level, it would allow you to have different light switches at different heights, particularly if you went from universal design for accessibility to a commercial project where you wanted them at different heights. That could be really useful, and it would mean that you can then connect your symbols, so you can create a symbol of a light switch, have the 3D version of that light switch connected to the layer, to the level. When you choose the level, that light switch will go up and down. And it would be a great way of making sure that all your light switches are at the same elevation, because you could set a level to confirm all of those or to control all of those. Now, if you're going to make levels, you've got to put them into this default and then save this as part of your template. So we create a new one. I've just got my piece of paper off to the side here. So let's have a look. Let's do the light switch. I think I can do the light switch easily enough. So we've got a new level type. I have to create a new level type. This is going to be called my light switch. Okay, so I've got a light switch. Now the idea of this is that I can create an elevation relative to the story to the underside of my light switch, which is about 950 millimeters relative to my story. Now I could set up an elevation benchmark if I wanted that would connect to that light switch, and that would show up on my sections. Do we want one of those? We can then use a style for that. But I'm going to turn that off at the moment. I've got a style connected. I can come back and fix that later on if I want. So that's the idea. I've got a light switch. So let's go ahead and let's create a story. Story 1. It's got the light switch. It's got everything there. Click OK and OK again. Now in my resource manager, I don't have any favorites. I haven't got my lights. Have I got my light switch? Oh, wait a minute. I might have. Let's have a look. I've got a wall light with switch. I've got sockets. There's a switch. Now this switch is only two-dimensional, which is not really what I wanted, but it'll have to do. So let's have a look. So that's my light switch. Let's change the visibility so I can see it. Now when we create this symbol, we have the ability to make the symbol connected to a story. So let's go into this. I'm going to see if I can find it. There's my switchboard. All of the stuff is just 2D at the moment. So I'm going to make a light switch object. Let's edit the 3D component. I need it to start here. And it's about, what's that about? 3 inches, so 75 millimeters, and it comes off the wall ½ an inch, so 12 millimeters. Let's have a look. What happened? So make that 12. and we're going to set the position of that to be 0 and 0. So there it is there. Let's extrude it, and it's so let's extrude that 4 inches high, 112 millimeters, maybe 4.5 inches. Cool. So I've got this object. I've now got it here. We could put a material on it. We can exit that symbol, and I've converted it to a hybrid symbol now. Now I should be able to connect this light switch to my stories. Now I haven't used this in my story layer, so let's cut that. Let's go to our floor, and let's paste that in. No, I don't want to keep that. So let's have a look at my light switch. So this is my switch here. This should now be a 3-dimensional switch. Let's have a look here. This is my current file. Oh, I'm in a brand new blank file, aren't I? So let's have a look here. There's my light switch there. Let's have a look at edit the 3D components. I think I've done that already. Let's look at the symbol options. So here I've got this insert in walls with a break, no break. We're not going to use a wall enclosure. But we can also make the story aware. So I can now set this to my light switch, and that should, so by the light switch, it's got an offset of 0. Let's go OK, and let's change to a 3D view, and that object should be sitting. You can see it there, it's now sitting above the ground. So that's my light switch idea in 3D. What if we change that and we change the story? So let's go back to our window. Where are we looking for? Organization. Let's change our story elevation. So let's edit that. There's my light switch. We're going to edit the level. We're going to set the level to 500 millimeters. I know it's too low, but we'll just set it to that. Okay. Now what we should notice is that switch should drop down. Sweet. So this to me is a really fantastic way. If you're going to use stories, this is a great way. I sometimes say to people, if you're going to use stories, you've got to be all in. No mucking around, no half attempts. It's got to be all stories or nothing. It can be really useful because when we create a wall style, we can then say to the wall style, I want this component to stop here and I want this component to stop there. So it can be really cool if you do that. There's always more than one way to do it. But that's just a really quick examination of stories. There's a lot I want to play with stories. I've got, as I said, I've got this webinar coming up. I've written the manual for it just about. It's just a couple of things I need to finish off. But that's the sort of thing I'm going to be covering is making sure that we create those objects and make them stick. So if you're watching at the moment, thanks for coming. Some people have watched it. If you've got a comment, please, there should be a live chat. I think you can leave a live chat, and then I can respond to that. Be lovely to know what you've got in mind and what I can do to answer your questions. Now when I made this symbol, I did make it in certain walls. So I'm not sure if anyone was curious about why I do that. I do that for switches and light switches because if you insert that switch in a wall with no break, when you move the wall, your switch automatically goes with it. And I think that's a great idea to be able to move your switch at the same time. So let me go back over where I did that. Here's my switch. Let's edit my symbol options here. And what I did was I chose story aware, so that allows me to use the story elevations or the story levels to control that height. I did insert in walls, and I put nearest wall edge on insertion, offset of 0. We could offset that by 25 millimeters to make it look a little bit better if we wanted. Let's go back. I just hit the enter key. Edit symbol options, so it's got no break. I'm not using a wall enclosure. I'm assigning it to Service Electrical. Now, to me, again, this is a great way of making sure that when you do use this object, it automatically goes on the correct class. And that means that it's something you don't have to think about. So then we can OK that. So this object is on the right class. And when I insert that symbol, there it is. Now you'll notice that it's dropping in 25 millimeters. It's actually embedding into the wall 25 mil. So let's make a change to that. Let's change my insertion options. Let's see if we can make that -25 and make it pop off the wall a little bit. Let's have a look. Insert symbol tool. Get my switch. Yeah, there it is. So you can see it just sitting off the wall a little bit. And that just allows me to be a little bit more, this side, it's going to jump in that side. No, it's not what I want. So on this side it works fine, but on the other side it's not working. Now the easier way to do that, instead of using the settings, would be to change, let's have a look, instead of using those settings, why don't we change the symbol options? Let's make that 0 and OK. And now we're going to edit the symbol. Now the idea of these symbols, I don't want it to be like that. I don't want that to be a top plan view. Now the insertion point of the symbol is here, where the red and the green line cross over. Now the way I normally do this is I'll normally just grab those and move them. Let's move that up by 25. Now that just sets the insertion point 25 mil higher. So that's got 0. This one here was set before, so let's make that 0 as well. So you can see my switches are just off the wall. And when you've got a drawing where you've got a lot of switches, it's handy to have them just off the wall, just that tiny little bit. That one's already jumped off the wall. And again, because I've inserted them in the wall, I just think it's a cool trick. You know, when you move the wall, all your switches and stuff go with it. But they don't break the wall because of the settings that I put in. 3D view. Let's just turn our view around a little bit. There we are. So we've now got our switches here. And now I'm going to change my level again. So back to tools, organization. I've got to go back to my story 1. Let's turn off that. So the light switch should really be at 950 millimeters, and boom, there's my light switches are controlled by that level. So I just think that story levels are really, really useful. It's a shame you can't see my screen because I've got a great sketch next to me showing how all these things relate together. Stories are a grouping of layers together. It can be really quite cool. Now I did see a trick that someone did the other day, which was if you've got your stories, what you can do with these stories is you can just go to your design layers here and you can just say, you know what, I really want this one to be part of my story settings. And you can just choose the story. I didn't realize you could do that till the other day, but it's a great way of doing it. So you actually don't have to worry too much about all of these things. You don't have to worry about too much about how many of these layers it creates. As long as you make that part of the story, then it works. So if I go back to my stories, let's create a new story above. And here you can just turn everything off if you want. I don't want a ceiling, I don't want that. I do want the light switch, of course. I don't want top of slab. Don't want the finished floor, I don't need a ledge, I don't need that. Don't need that. So you go OK, and it's now created, if we look at my design layers, it's just created that information. Now one of the things with stories has been that it's difficult to create split level buildings with stories. But I actually realized by using this trick, by just dragging the layer in, that you could actually create a split level. You can have a separate layer, you could create a split level, and then you can actually tell Vectorworks that your walls were connected to the split level layers, the split level levels I should say, and it would just go up automatically. Well, I think I've just about covered things I wanted to talk about. I didn't really want to talk about too much. I just want to have a little bit of fun with Vectorworks. I really appreciate everyone who's come to watch, and if you want to leave a comment, that's been fantastic. If you've enjoyed it, let me know. I'd like to do the Funday with Friday with Vectorworks. It's actually Friday where I am. I know lots of people in the world, it's still only Thursday. But I'd love to do it every Friday. And if you want to join me, let me know, because I think it would be really cool to join me. Now, I don't know from people that are out there whether you can chat with me or not. I'd love it if you can chat. I'm going to stop recording and I'm going to stop streaming. So if you did come, thanks very much.